What is going on, guys? My name is Kana and you're watching Android for Noobs. Welcome to the second video in this series, and this video is going to be an overview on Android Studio, the most popular software for making Android apps. So with that being said, let's get started. Alright, first we need to install Android Studio. You can either go to the link in the description, or you can just search up Android Studio on Google and open the first link in the description. Just click on the green button that says download Android Studio, agree to their terms and conditions, and click on download. Now the download should depend on your internet connection, so just be patient. After the download is done, just open it and go through the normal installation process. This typically takes around 10 minutes. Then just configure your settings for your Android Studio and let the libraries for the Android platform install. Now this takes around 30 minutes, so just be patient.
"20 minutes later."
And after it's done, you're good to go. Well, almost. Alright guys, after you guys installed the Android Studio packages, you guys should see this window. Now there are 6 options here. You don't need to worry about all of them. For this tutorial, all you guys will be needing is creating a new project. Just click on the first one. So now what you guys want to do is name your app project, which usually is the name of your app. So just for this video, I'll be naming it Test App. And for the company domain, it's basically just your PC name and .com. You don't really have to worry about it right now. And next we have project location. So this is where the project is located in the computer. Now by default this is in the documents folder, I think, but I have it in my E drive where I save it inside a folder called Workspace Android. And then I'm just gonna make a new folder and I'll name it Test App. And for the package name, it's basically just the opposite of company domain. It's computer's name and then your project's name. You don't really need to worry about it too, but just know this, that you do need a package for the project. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff. Now just click next. And now this is really important this is where you select the minimum version required for your app to function. So on default it is on Android 7, I think, but as you can see there are only 8% of the devices out there that can be able to run the app. Now I usually don't recommend it to be a higher version because not many people have their devices running on the latest Android version, and that's why for the minimum requirements I kind of like it to be in Android 5. It's up to you. You can go till Android 8, which is the latest one, but you really won't be able to have a target audience for your app to be downloaded on, because their phones can't run it and would not be compatible with it because they're running lower than Android 8. So just select Android 5, and as you can see there are like 70% people running, 70% devices approximately running it will be able to run it. And after you select that, please note that I'm only showing you guys phones and tablets in this tutorial series. I'm not going to show you guys smartwatches and TVs. So yeah, just don't worry about them and just click on next. And now you'll be on a window that shows you templates. Now these templates are basically like website templates where before creating a website, if you have ever noticed on Weebly, Wix, or Squarespace, they ask you which theme your website is going to be based off of, so you can like build your website off of that template. So as you can see, Google Maps activity is a template for a location based app like Uber, like Google Maps, like those apps that require maps or location integrated stuff. You can just click on Google Maps and then the template is going to be loaded and you can build off of it. Now, another example would be having a login template. If you want your app to have a user database and if you want to store their usernames and passwords, I recommend you guys using the login template, but we will be covering most of these templates later on in this series. But right now, for the sake of this tutorial, I'll just select empty activity and click on next. And for the activity name, the default is main activity. I don't have a problem it being the name being main activity, and just click on next, and this should build your project. Now, as you can see, I have opened the project without any trouble, but if it's your first time opening Android Studio, you'll be faced with a lot of missing platforms and missing SDKs and those kind of stuff. You have to install more basic requirements before you can start your project. So I'll be showing you how to do that now. Alright, once it's loaded, you should see some tips. You can disable it if you want, but I find it helpful sometimes, so I'll just leave it on, so whenever I'm in the mood to read it, I'll actually read it. So I'm just gonna close it right now. I don't need it. So the first thing we see is there's a missing platform. So to fix this, all you have to do is click on the hyperlink, the blue text. Just click on it, and it should download the required stuff you need to proceed with your app. Just click on accept and next. Okay, once it's done, just click on finish. This should restart the project. Okay, now we came across another issue here. It says it didn't find build tools. Now just click on it. Now please note that this is only a first time thing. That's the main reason I'm doing this on a virtual machine instead of my real machine. It's because I want you guys to know what you are gonna come across whenever you're installing Android Studio for the first time. Now I already installed all of this on my main computer, so if I showed the video on my main computer, it's never gonna ask me to install all of this stuff again. It's only a one-time thing. It's like the first time you launch it, you have to install all this necessary stuff. And yeah, there we go. Project setup started. So that means we are successfully, and boom, it's finished. Alright, after you guys have installed all the basic needs for your project to run, let's start with the layout of Android Studio. So on the left side here, we have the imports, the app. There are two folders here, app and Gradle scripts. Now Gradle scripts is what the Android Studio uses, what the scripts Android Studio uses to build your project and make your app. So we really don't need to like change that much stuff in Gradle scripts. Just leave it for now. Now what I really want to show you guys is the app folder. Just open it. You should see three folders: manifest, Java, and res. Res is short form for resources. Now if you open resources, you should see additional folders. Now these are what you use for importing images or other related media into your app. Now drawable is for images, and all of these have their own functions, but we really don't need to worry about them right now. Now what I want to show you guys is in Java, and then if you open it, we see our package name. If you remember, it consists of the company domain and the name of the project. All you have to worry about is the first one. The last two are really not that big of a deal. So just go and click on the first one and click on main activity. And that is the folder you have open right now by default, the main activity. And that's where all the Java code is run. So this is basically the source of everything. Everything is happening in this file. Now if you open manifest, you should see it's an XML file. It contains the basic settings for Android Studio. You really don't need to worry about it right now. So yeah, so for the layout of your app, how to configure your layout and you don't need to know any Java code to configure the layout. So all you have to do is open activity_main.xml right next to main activity on the top menu. And as you can see, this is how our app is now with by default, or when you use the empty activity template. The hello world is by default in the middle. So as you can see on the left side, we see many options. Now to get a button, for example, all you have to do is drag and drop it. And yeah, that's how. Okay, that is basically the design tab inside activity main. Now if you go into text, this is basically all the XML code that happens whenever you drag and drop stuff. Now if you go back and drag and drop something else, now let's go back to the XML version, and you should see it adds new stuff in the code. So every time you drag and drop, it adds stuff here. So this is really helpful because you don't have to memorize all the code to different objects out there in Android Studio. So all you have to do is drag and drop. You will really not be visiting the XML version of activity_main that many times, but occasionally we will be here to change some minute details. Now let's go back into design, and what I also want to show you guys is on the right is the attributes, or the settings for the objects you just drag and drop. By default, it's on the viewer attributes page, and as you can see, the basics are, it basically has an ID, it has a style, it has a text, and you can basically configure it. Now I'm just going to be configuring the button, for example. But before we do that, I forgot to tell you guys, there is a specific way to align your button. If you just drag and drop it, it's not going to be exactly where you put it on the screen in the original app. This is because all the devices out there don't have the same screen sizes, right? So for the app to know where the location of the button is, you have to specify it by holding and dragging the circle on one of the sides. So what this does, it makes a squiggly line, and that means it automatically aligns itself wherever you put it on the screen right now. Like drag and drop it, it aligns itself in the app and automatically determines the screen size and perfectly aligns it wherever you want it to be. You have to always do this for whatever object you drag and drop in, for having it in the right place. So I'm just gonna get rid of the hello world because it's coming in the middle. Alright, now I'm just gonna align the text field, and now let's configure the button settings. So the first one we see is ID. What ID is the variable name for the button. So this is really important because this is how we call button in Java. So if you want to have a action that happens whenever someone clicks button, you need to know what button is actually stored as, the name of the button inside the app. So that is the ID. So it's by default it's button, but it really gets confusing if you have multiple buttons, because the next button you drag and drop has button 2, and you kind of will be confused by which one is button 2 again. So I usually recommend naming the ID as the action, like what it does. Right now it's not doing anything, but just for the sake of this video, I'll be naming it input. Now for showing you what actually happens inside main activity inside Java, is basically let's say if the user clicks the button, there's an action that's supposed to be happening. So in Java you'll be writing an if this button is clicked, and please note that the code I'm writing right now is not accurate. It doesn't even exist. I'm just making it up right now as we speak. It's basically if user clicks button, and then we call button input because that's how it's stored as in the app. And then we specify it what to do, like change X to 10 or change this to that, something like that. So that's ID. And next we have layout width and layout height. This is basically the width and length of the rectangle on the rectangle of the button. If you select match constraint, it just basically stretches out for the full size of the app. Now constraint layout is this thin blue line around the app. I don't think you guys will be able to see this, but on your screens inside Android Studio, you should see the thin blue line. No, I don't like it like that, so I'm just gonna do wrap content. So that's basically the default size of the button. And then we also have like a specific attribute for the button. Like we can change the style of the button. There are a lot of options, but the default one is the default Android button. It's up to you, you can choose whatever you want. I'm just gonna be leaving it as default. Now you can also change the text of the button because you don't want it to say it's a button, right? So I'm just gonna be like click me for the sake of this video. Click me. Oops, sorry. Alright, there you go. It renames it into click me, and the user sees it as click me. So for more options, all you have to do is click on view all attributes. So this lists out all the settings you can apply to for the button. And yeah, it's basically really helpful because you can like specify a lot of different things, like the size of the button, the font used on the text in the button, the input type, there are like various like numerous settings you can do, and I'm not going to be talking about all of these in this video because it's going to be a really long video if I do that. I really don't want to do it right now. And now all that's left is to run the app on a virtual phone. Now Android Studio has this integrated thing where you can make your own virtual phone and then test your app on it. So first thing you want to do is click on the green button, and it should open up the list of available phones. Usually for you guys, if you're first time running Android Studio, it shouldn't ask you that. So it shouldn't show the two phones I have right now. So just to make a new phone, just click on create new virtual device, and just it's going to show you the list of available phones you can test the app on. I'm just going to select Nexus 1, and there you can see its screen size and other settings, and click on next, and you should see what it asks you which version the phone's gonna use. Like, remember when we first configured the settings for the project, we put the minimum requirement for the version to be Android 5, right? So this, as long as this version of the phone is higher than Android 5, we should be good. It looks like I already downloaded Android 7.1, so I'm just gonna select that. But for you guys, just click on download for whatever Android version you want to download. Just click on download, and it should go through the process, and it shouldn't take more than 2 minutes. So just click on download, and after it's done downloading, it should be like bold and like a bold text. Just click on that, and then you should see with other settings for the phone, like the startup orientation, if you want it to be portrait or landscape. I just want it to be portrait, and you can always change it later on even after the phone is turned on. After that, just click on finish, and this should start up the phone. Now please note that this may take time for the first time on running the phone, because this needs to boot up the phone from factory settings. And after it's done, it's gonna open your app, and as you can see, our app is pretty good actually. It's aligned perfectly like we wanted it to, and because we automatically I just aligned it for the screen size. And if we click on the button we just made, it's not gonna do anything because we didn't write any Java code for the button yet, and that's for another video. So in this video you have learned how to drag and drop basic objects and how to configure them using the attribute section of the Android Studio. Before I end this video, I want you guys to do a challenge. So what I want you guys to do is make this. Alright, thanks for watching this video guys. Hope you guys liked it, and leave a comment down below any suggestions you want me to implement on my videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.